I chose the nationality adjectives as my English structure. I chose this structure because I felt like it was something the students probably had not done before, and I found it fun when planning a creative activity. The class was a grade 4, so 10 years old, and there were 15 students present total. The aim was to teach the students when and how to use nationality adjectives, and the evaluation was through a small play or conversation that the students had come up with themselves. The material used were pens, sheets of paper, and dictionaries. The plan was to introduce the students to the concept at first. They most likely had heard or said, "I am Swedish," but they probably didn't know what it actually meant. So starting with that base knowledge, I asked the class if they knew the equivalent words of the other countries. They were then divided into groups and asked to come up with a play using nationality adjectives. They then performed these plays in front of the rest of the students. The lesson went according to plan, except from that I had misjudged how much time the presentation of the concept would take, so the production of the conversations became somewhat rushed. I also felt during the production phase that maybe I had planned something too difficult, but it worked out perfectly in the end. All groups presented something that followed the criteria I had set up and used the structure correctly. I think it was a fun lesson because both me and the students seemed to enjoy it. I think I somewhat underestimated the students' abilities to speak English. I gave the students ideas for topics and example sentences, but they didn't use them. They came up with their own topics and modified the sentences to fit their plays. They adapted the sentences wonderfully, and the plays were often witty and had themes like current politics, friends, or traveling. I wanted to try a lesson focusing on fluency. On page 93 to 94 in Thornbury, there is a text about fluency, and that when practicing fluency, it's supposed to emulate authenticity and have a focus on meaning, interaction, and repetition. The students did get some time to construct a conversation because I felt like they didn't have the language to spontaneously come up with everything, but all of the plays ended up spontaneous anyways. Students said things wrong, some students said something different from planned, which made all the others have to adapt. On top of that, there was some spontaneous repetition going on as they forgot what they were going to say, so they just repeated what the person before them had said until they remembered what they were supposed to say. Since they chose the topics themselves, it was all things they were familiar with, and they did have the language to spontaneously change their plays to fit the new information. There were grammar mistakes, but the meaning was very clear. In Seminar 2, we talked about giving students opportunity, something to talk about, and words to say it with. The 3 components were fulfilled, and because of that, all students talked without any hesitation.